I ran into a woman, and I can't even remember, but she was working with Mark as a manager or publisher or something. And she said she had some interesting artists, and she gave me a CD, and I was just very struck by it because I think, I find it a bit when people ask me, well, what contemporary artists do you really like? And I get kind of stuck for an answer because one thing I've noticed about a lot of singer-songwriters today is I've noticed something called, which I call with my own terminology, melodic amplitude. Like so much modern songwriting takes place in a very narrow space. Right. Anyway, one of the CDs she gave me was by Mark, and I just thought, yeah, now this is proper songwriting. This is the kind of stuff that I like, and Mark is not, he's not 20, he's not a young guy, he's not old, but he's not, and he's not aggressive. He's just really good.
Yeah.
I wish there was more people paid attention. People here, in a way, it sounds like a kind of strange place to get your main exposure, but he busks. Mm-hmm. And people hear it, and people stop, and people listen, and people buy the CDs or give him money or whatever. Sort of most rewarding moment I've had with Mark. I do, because I used to produce Nick Drake, and so I've produced a few concerts where people sing his songs. And one of the things that I try to do whenever I do a concert about Nick's music is to have somebody sing one of Molly's songs, Nick's mother, because I think Molly was a huge influence on Nick. And a lot of people don't know about that and don't know her music. Okay, anyway, for some reason, we didn't have anybody singing a Molly song. And then we had somebody fall out at the last, I had a slot, an open slot. I said, cool, come on, let's just, we've got enough big names on this thing, because the promoter, the hall, it was the Birmingham Symphony Hall. They wanted big names, I said, okay, I don't care. We're putting Mark on this show. Because one of my favorite songs of Molly's is something called A Sound. But I always really had this thing, I want somebody to sing A Sound. And Mark took it on, and he just killed it. He was great. He was like the highlight of the concert. People loved it. It's something I've experienced a number of times, is when you have somebody who's not known, who isn't full of jokes and full of attention-getting patter or something like that, who, if you can find a context where you've got a seated audience that is in a good mood, and they're not going to get up and walk out, they're just going to sit there and listen to whatever comes. And you can put, it was Nick Drake's great moment where I put him on to open for Fairport Convention, and everybody sat and listened and thought he was fantastic. It was the only time I saw him really connect with thousands of people live. And this happened with Mark. People just loved it, and Dave Watson has done a terrific job working with Mark, and I think as a producer. And so obviously my dream for Mark, is that a label or a website or a radio program or something hears what I hear and picks it up. I hear so many songs, that people send me, or people, I've listened to a lot of singer-songwriters over the years. People, I get CDs and demos and things through the post or online now saying, I'm a big fan of Nick Drake. He's my biggest influence. Will you listen to my, And it's like it has, quiet voice, arpeggio guitar, form, but no essence. And Mark has essence, he's got a point of view, he's got a sense of melody, he's got a feeling of the history of music. You can hear that he's listened to a lot of music. He isn't just clutching at little things superficially to do with what he's heard on Spotify. He's actually, absorbed a lot of music over the years, and he has very strong feeling. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've observed looking backwards over a lot of the music that I've liked, and it's not something I think about going when I'm approaching music, but it just sort of works out that most of the artists that I care about or that I like are politically passionate. It's something that infuses the music, and Mark, has written songs about the pipeline in North Dakota, and he's, hidden amongst his songs are these very passionate songs about issues, about things that but they're not like political rants. They're subtle, interesting songs that sneak up on you and make their point of view clear, but without hitting you over the head. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing I really admire and like about Mark.